We have a massive amount of implied volatility going into tomorrow, so it's important we get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta. Looking over at AMC and GME as Bank of America showing some weird things with the accounts right now. As you log in, you see either no balance or a balance of 0, and they are directly liable to some stuff going on with AMC and GME. So we're going to look at those for a little bit on the technical side. Then we're going to get into the dollar. That thing is screaming higher, and volatility, but we have to start off with the SPY. Now, if you joined us for the live video, we overall were talking about what we were talking about in last night's video, which is, do we actually head higher now, or do we cross over on a 15-minute and make a divergence while touching into our buy zone? And it looks like we have created a divergence into our buy zone. So those buyers did step in that zone down there. And so we really have to pay attention to that, meaning we can see an upward move here. We can see an hourly cross up. So how high up could that really take us? Well, it's a good thing that we calculate the options data and get that 68% zone. It's not a 100% zone, but at least we have a 68% chance to land in this big zone by tomorrow's close. So the upside for that is going to be 574.85 to the upside, and we do have 562.87 to the downside. So we do see those ranges spreading out just a little bit. Looks like you have about a 1% move, maybe even a little more than 1% move in either direction that you could end up for the SPY. So this is going to be very key going into tomorrow. One of the bullish things you can pay attention to is just very simple. Is that hourly able to curl up? This right here curls up. You can go positive. Now, the key thing to understand about the MACD, and what we talk about a lot in the course, is the positioning of that MACD. And if this does cross up, it's still in negative territory. Now, it's not too far away from the center line, so you can make a big move to go and test these highs up here, or go make a new one. But you want to watch out, because this could be a good thing that leads into a bad thing. So we really want to be paying attention to divergences at these highs, especially as we approach into Friday. We do have the port workers strike. We have a lot going on out there that can really affect the market, and that is why we need to be paying attention to, even if we see a good move, watch out if there is a reversal signal above it, because we could be getting trapped, and the dollar is suggesting that. We're going to talk about that towards the end of this video. Now, this is going to be very key. One thing you can also do, right, if you're really just being patient, waiting for that good signal to take something in the up or down direction, well, that's going to be when you see it on a 2-hour chart. For me, I really like my 2-hour charts. If this is able to curl up, then that would be a good sign for this 2-hour to go and make a new high, and then that could hit those higher highs and then maybe form a 2-hour divergence. So that's what I'd be watching out for the SPY. If we're actually going to head down early on in the day, then I'd be really watching this 30-minute chart, making sure no divergences form. But pretty much if this 30-minute does cross, well, you've built a bunch of liquidity with all this price action in here, because we've really bottled up. Remember, we didn't really go to those daily expected moves after we violated it early on in the week. Now we've created some reversal signals. So right now I do believe that the direction for stocks is more probable to the upside. But if this 30-minute curls down early on in the day, then that completely changes, and we actually could head down towards that 562.87. So it looks like for me, if the 30-minute curls down early on in the day, watch out for, some basing out structure here, but also for that target of 562.87. And then if we're going to see a bullish move, then the hourly is going to be able to turn up, and maybe we can target something like 574.85 to the upside. The Qs, you're actually going to notice that the hourly was able to curl up here. So we're getting some consolidation. We're going to see if we can break through these levels, right? We were looking at those shorter time frames. This has crossed up, but it's in negative territory. So we really need to see, as of right now, it's still leaning towards that move towards 488.59. Okay, so those expected moves for tomorrow are going to be 488.59, and we do have 475.31. Okay, so two things to pay attention to there. If we're going to head up, that hourly is already crossed. So maybe we need to see this 2-hour cross up. Watch out for some divergence if we see something crazy. Okay, we're going to be going into Friday. We do get unemployment data. We get the revision of the previous unemployment data, and we get the revision and the current for non-farm payroll. So those are all going to be very important pieces. Remember that the Fed said they do not want to see weakness in the labor market anymore. So if we see some more weakness, it can have a bad effect on the market. As we look forward, we can look into a 30-minute for the bearish side, right? If we're going to end up testing maybe a downside weekly expected move and making a great basing out signal to Tomorrow, well, then we're going to see this 30-minute turn down. So tomorrow can tell us a lot about the structure of the market, and maybe going into that big news on Friday, we actually see this come down like this, and then we see that pop back up. What that could do for us is create a 30-minute divergence. And 30-minute divergence, you know, we're talking about that 2-hour chart rotating back up. 30-minute divergence in my back testing has led to a high probability for the 2-hour to cross. So be paying attention if that 30-minute makes a divergence down here. But the bullish and bearish scenarios are 30-minute down bad for tomorrow, 2-hour up very, very good. Apple on Tuesday, able to see a big drop. We were talking about that at the high, how there are reversal signals here. Those all did confirm. So we have to be paying attention if this is just some kind of bounce that is going to fall back down. So if the hourly is able to turn up, we can see that strong move, maybe break through something like 229.54. Yeah, we can maybe test that, because if you break through this level, you might be curling up a 2-hour chart at that point. So that's something to pay attention to with Apple. If you need the ranges and you want daily ranges as well for Friday, if you have a Friday expiration, Apple is on our list, and we will be putting that out Thursday night. So it is a good time to join the Patreon. That's where you can get that information. It is down in the description, and it only costs a cup of coffee, and it is a really useful tool. We hear about it all the time. Many people come into the chat when we are live and say how much those weekly range really has helped their trading, especially with consistency. Now, if you're looking for the downside move, it's pretty obvious here, right? We don't necessarily have the best divergence on the 30-minute. So if the 30-minute rotates down, that's overall your bearish signal, and then you want to see if that's creating any kind of reversal, right? Any kind of divergences down at this level. That's what I'd be paying attention to. But for the most part, if that 30-minute curls down, where is it? Well, it's in negative territory, so downside is the most likely option from there, testing the low or going to make a new one. Now, how did this bounce happen? How did we kind of talked about this bounce happening? Because we got the rejection on a 15-minute. We were paying attention to 15 minutes most of the time, and we just noticed that that was able to really curl back up, really see some good positivity. Now we're kind of consolidating, so it's going to be up to tomorrow. Does that curl down? Do we need to consolidate more and then curl back up? Or is this just going to start to go up on some bigger time frames for Apple? Tesla, as far as it goes right now, you are testing that breakdown area. So we really gapped below this. This is going to be your first breakdown area. The second one you maybe need to test is up towards 256. 256 is going to be important there. If you're looking for weekly moves for this, like you're wondering if this is testing a weekly move, hey, join that Patreon down in the description. If you need to learn how to trade around it, the courses down in the description are 90% off. They will be very useful to understand your indicators and learn how to trade. And they even give you an option strategy that I personally use. It's the option strategy I use the most. I share it with everyone on this channel. We talk about it all the time, and if you have questions about it, please join us for that live video. But it is 90% off. Get it while it lasts. The 30-minute has crossed up here for Tesla, so that is telling us that we could still be bouncing, but we're seeing that come down in the post market. So if this is a weak bounce, right? The positioning of the MACD very low. So the most probable thing here is a bounce that leads to another downturn. Okay, that is the most probable thing, because the positioning of that MACD, a lower high, is the most probable thing here for Tesla. As we open up a 2-hour, you're going to notice that that's way down by the center line. So if that positivity really wants to come in and build back, well, and this is able to cross up, we actually could see this test the high, go make a new one. I believe that the 2-hour is the best case for a positive move here for Tesla. Amazon we've been talking about because it had some decent divergences in here, but you're kind of seeing some flagging. So this 2-hour turning up, that would be a pretty bullish thing. Remember, we talked about reacting down to these levels, down to this area down here, because you could create that structure to fall down. So if that 2-hour turns up, you still have to be weary because of the positioning of the MACD for that lower high scenario. Okay, you have to be ready for that. But as we go into a 30-minute, you're just going to notice something here. We're creeping up and up and up. We're looking very flaggy with this type of move. Even with the divergences, we're creating a flag. We have not confirmed that up on the 2-hour. So as far as managing a trade goes, another thing that we teach you how to do in the course is actively managing your trade. Really being involved with your trade, taking accountability for your trading and being like, hey, this is a moment where I can get screwed. This is crossing down. That means there's no reason for it to go up. So if I was in something like Amazon expecting that 2-hour to rotate up and I was in this trade, well then if this curls down early on in the morning, then I know that is a bad sign for my trade. So I'm going to manage my risk, even if it causes me to lose a little bit of money. If I have $5,000 behind a trade and that trade needs to be managed and say now I'm only going to walk away with $4,000, it's better to walk away with $4,000 than to walk away with with zero, right? Managing your trade and managing your risk is very, very important. And if you can just nail that down, that portion of the course, if you can really nail that down, trust me, that is worth like so much more money than what you're going to pay for the course. That's super, super useful. But the overall statement here is 30-minute curls down. Watch for some kind of divergence, right? This has really wanted to bounce. What if we just do something like this? That would be something to watch out for. But initially you just say 30-minute curls down. That is a very bad sign for Amazon. If it makes a reversal signal, then you're like, okay, now we have the opportunity to bounce and maybe curl up this 2 hour right here. And talking about the 2 hour, just remember that positioning of the MACD is leaning towards a lower high. So we'll see what this looks like. If we're able to bounce, we're going to pay attention to the structure in that move and see if it is going to create some kind of lower high and maybe trap some people. Nvidia is going to be a similar story, as in the 2 hour needs to cross up, right? The 2 hour can cross up. That can be a good thing. And that is not really negative, right? It's a little bit negative, but it's close enough to the center line that we actually could test this high or go make a new one. As this seemed like an overexcited move, I'd say more like test this level here. So I believe that if the 2 hour crosses up, we're going to test something like 125. We could even go a little bit higher because this is close to positive territory, continuing the positive trend. That can go up a little bit more right as we get a breakout. What if we see that divergence confirm again to the downside? And then this time you'll have a triple divergence, and we'll see if there's some trap behavior as the dollar has really bottomed out, and maybe we can start to curl down this daily scale. Okay, this is starting to reject a little bit back up, but if that curls down, it's so close to negative territory, you want to be paying attention. Let's pop into a 30-minute real quick, because I don't know if all the work is done here, right? As far as it goes, the 2 hour curling up is the bullish signal, but we didn't necessarily have reversal signals here from our 30-minute chart. So that's going to be a big deal, because if you curl down on this 30-minute chart early on in the day, you're in negative territory, which means you're going to continue this negative overall trend. And maybe that is going to give you a basing out signal, but maybe it doesn't, right? So that's why you want to be paying attention to, if I'm taking a bullish trade, you want to pay attention if little 30 minutes are rolling down into negative territory, because that can just be bad, right? The daily could cross if that happens. But if we're able to make some kind of basing out signal, we'll be notifying you about it over on Patreon or live tomorrow morning. AMD, great move. And first of all, you can just notice almost a double top here for the 30-minute, giving you that signal saying no reason for upside, right? This cross down that said we need to pull back, no reason for upside. Our take on this was overall on the 2 hour chart. You can notice that that 30-minute is crossed over, so most likely is downside according to the 30-minute chart. So the 2 hour chart is something we'll pay attention to for bullishness, right? That's a bearish signal on the 30-minute, but if the 2 hour is able to rotate back up, you actually are pretty damn positive still. You're still in a good place to actually go and maybe get some kind of double top or make a move towards 169.58. If you make that move and then that has some too much weakness in it, you can see another point of divergence that might be a little bit closer to the center line, which means that has an opportunity to go into a negative trend. That's the reversal signal that I am paying attention to for AMD. But just to keep it simple for you, 30-minute has crossed down. That's not a good sign for the morning, but if this 2 hour can rotate back up, then it's looking pretty positive for at least one more positive move, and then we have to watch out for some kind of reversal signal. Meta still trickling up, and that 2 hour was trying to cross, and it just can't do it because you're getting that squeeze behavior. It's just holding here, just barely leaking higher as it goes higher, making 30-minute divergences across the whole dang thing, right? These are just a ton of divergences all the way across this. You have divergence for Meta, telling us that the longer that this holds up, if we experience something bad, that momentum is very, very dead, and we can start to drop very quickly for Meta. I just wanted to point that out. 30-minute turning up, though, would mean this crazy little move, these crazy little moves like this can keep going, right? Anytime this curls up into positive territory, that does mean continuation of the trend, but that is getting closer and closer to the center line, right? Every single one, even in this area, we're getting so close to the center line that it's just a matter of time before we see something bad. And recently, we just saw the 2 hour reject, so we could see that negativity come in right away. Now, if the 2 hour is able to actually rotate back up, then you might see a good positive move towards a weekly range. That's why it's important to join the Patreon down in the description. But is that going to create a solid divergence? Because these are rejection divergences that you have here for the 2 hour. So can we actually go create a solid divergence and then see if that really produces something, maybe some trap or something like that happening? But I do believe that all of this is a trap at this point for Meta. And for AMC and GME, just so you're aware, again, Bank of America having a lot of problems, showing $0 or no balance in the when you go into the mobile app, you actually see pretty much nothing. So I have multiple accounts with multiple places. The main one I use is with a credit union, a local credit union, because I trust them. They show their balance statement in the actual waiting room there, and that's really nice to see. I can look through their stuff. I can see what they have on the books, which is really, really cool. That's why I like it. For the most part, though, for this, just so you know, Bank of America is liable for a lot of what's going on with the suppression of AMC and GME. So as we are reacting down to our level of 437, we're seeing a reversal signal here. This is kind of screaming red flag if AMC is able to curl up here for Bank of America. So for Bank of America, if AMC is able to turn up here, that might mean that this actually makes some sense why they're going through some kind of quote unquote glitch. Maybe we'll learn more about it and it's just something funky. But for the most part, I don't think anything's really coincidence anymore based on how the world's been lately. And I want to pay attention if AMC sees that upside. The main reason I want to pay attention, though, I'm a technical analysis guy. This could be a double bottom. This can turn up, and 2-hour divergences like to turn up daily scales. What have I said about AMC and GME? If you really just want to pay attention to times where it can have a higher probability of happening, the times where it has a higher probability of getting through 504 this week, we're going to update you on that on Sunday, right? This line does change, so make sure you're subscribed so you can see that on Sunday. But the reason we want to pay attention is because daily momentum is what you need to see something crazy. And if you want to see something crazy, you're going to need that daily MACD to cross back up. And now you have potential for a 2-hour double bottom that if that shows some positivity, we can see a solid move here. Maybe going on into the end of the week, maybe it starts up with some kind of move higher. We look like we're going to fall down, and then come Monday, something good happens. So this could leak out all the way into earnings. Earnings will be a 50-50 flip. As we look over at GameStop, one thing we got to pay attention to here is the daily actually rolling down. You're getting a close below a lot of the smaller moving averages, right? Pretty much all of them except for the 200, okay? So the reason you want to be paying attention to this is just because if that daily does rotate down, that more likely means that we're going to test this level or maybe go down to that 200. If we break through that 200, it can get ugly, right? If this crosses over, it means bad things. Really, really bad things. But if this can cross over and turn down like this and create that double bottom and curl back up, right? This can curl down and then curl back up. That would be when you really want to pay attention because you are so close to positive territory on that move. Okay, so that's where you really want to be paying attention. Anytime that these roll up, you do have a higher probability to see some positivity. Just like we did here. We crossed up, we saw a little bit more positivity. We cross up, what do? We see a little bit of positivity. So that's why we want to pay attention to this. If it does make a divergence on the daily scale, that tells me, hey, momentum to the downside is dead, and you could see something crazy. For this week, you got to get above 2480, and then that will be updated on Sunday for you guys. And volatility, we were talking about how you have that 85% chance for an update in the SPY. We were mentioning that towards the end of the video last night, so make sure you do watch most of the video because we do mention other things throughout the video. And you're going to notice here that the daily scale is still turned up, so you got to have some caution with this market. But as we're seeing weakness here, something key has happened. Even with this crash signal, we notice that there are some little reversal signals for the 15-minute, and we tried to pop up, and we weren't fully able to go any higher. So something I'm paying attention to is the fact that the 2-hour was able to rotate back down. The 2-hour is telling you that volatility needs to pull back. So that would tell me that if those hourlies turn up tomorrow, then the SPY is showing that it's going to go higher, and the volatility is saying that it's going to go lower, meaning that the SPY should go higher as well. So it looks like to me volatility wants to subside for a little bit or consolidate in some way. I think that a reaction from volatility down towards 1683 is going to be key. Now, the key thing here, remember that volatility is in a very positive position. So if that curls down and curls back up, you want to be paying attention because the second move can be the big move that takes you through, right? The first move is like, oh, everyone's scared. Then they see a bounce, they go, everything's fine. And then we turn back around and that's where volatility can really start to come in. So we're paying attention. The daily scale is turned up. This is very high up. Even if we do see positivity for a couple of days, I'd be watching out for early next week or even Friday for the close, because you could see some kind of rug pull with this type of behavior. And the reason that we're talking about rug pull a little bit with volatility is just because if you look at the dollar, that thing is screaming higher every single day. So this will most likely need some kind of consolidation to break through this level, which is funny. We're going to talk about the dollar consolidating in some way. If the dollar was to consolidate in some way tomorrow, well, that would mean some people going out of cash and into stocks, meaning it would add more probability, more likelihood for the SPY to actually see higher prices. But we got to see those things confirmed in the overall signals. You can see on this 2 hour, we've been heading up for a very long time. There is some little divergences between these highs and the shorter time frames, but I mainly only trust the 2 hour for the dollar. But look how high up this is. And if that would cross down, then you might be in a period of consolidation. I would say a retest down towards something like 100.94. It looks like a good area for me. And if that would pull down, it's very positive. So what you're going to want to pay attention to here is anytime that 2 hour does rotate back up. These are the reason we're talking about this before it actually crosses over is just because we like to talk about possible trade setups, right? And something to pay attention to with your setups is what is the dollar doing? Are people, behind the curtain flying into cash? And that is happening, right? We're seeing them fly into cash. The only problem I think there is the PCC is relatively high, right? The PCC is really, retail is banking on some kind of big downfall. So I think we might need to see an upward push with this big implied volatility to trap people to the upside. But obviously with my trades, I will always be following the signals and I will always be trading like water. That way I can stay very risk managed and make sure I'm always in the right trade. Actually wanted to talk about TLT today, because if people are going to be running to safety, or we need a reason, because this is the opposite of, say, the 10-year yield, the 10-year yield goes down, well, TLT goes up. So if we're going to need to see those rates come down dramatically all of a sudden, this is the signal I'm paying attention to. Look how steep that is on your MACD for that divergence for TLT. Look how steep that is for the divergence on the RSI. So if this is able to curl back up and see a good move, you actually can turn back up on this daily scale. And you guys know I like to invest in TLT. We talked about that way back in the day. We've talked about TLT a lot way back in these areas when we went down towards 82.50 was when I said that's your perfect buy, and that's exactly where it bounced from way back in the past. So what we need to be paying attention to here is, does that 2 hour divergence confirm, and is that confirming because people are now flying to safety and we need to cut those rates really, really fast because the economy is in trouble? And something like the port strike, something like World War III, all of these type of things can really add up to, we are going to experience some pain here and we need to cut those rates really, really fast, which would make total sense because the Fed increased their cut, right? We knew that the Fed was increasing their cut for some reason. We're still figuring out what exactly that reason is. Was it they were aware of the port strike going to happen? Was it they're aware of World War III going to happen? I don't know. But for the most part, we just pay attention to the signals because they're going to give us a little hint. And it looks like TLT has a signal here that has potential for those rates to have to drop dramatically really, really fast. And that's why I'm going to, if that 2 hour does cross up tomorrow, reapply my investment on TLT. I'll leave it off with the main takeaway here, just leaving it off with the SPY. Obviously, we're paying attention. Does that hourly curl up, or do those shorter time frames actually curl down and create some kind of divergence? But I think another thing we can pay attention to is daily momentum. Daily momentum is the strongest. People ask me all the time, what's stronger, 30-minute, 2 hour, or daily momentum? Daily momentum, if you really think about it, daily momentum is 4 times stronger than a 2 hour. 2 hour momentum is 4 times stronger than a 30-minute. So you always want to be trusting more the bigger time frames, and that's why I think it's important when you take that into consideration to pay attention to volatility, because that daily scale has crossed up, right? The daily scale has crossed up, so you still, even with this little red day, you are still above all the moving averages and you still have daily momentum with you. This could all just be a pullback, so just be a little bit cautious. We might even see only one more day of upside or something crazy to the upside that totally turns out to be some kind of trap. So we'll be paying attention to this stuff with you guys tomorrow morning while we are live. And I just really appreciate you guys watching the video. I always love to see more and more people coming out trying to learn more about stocks. I really like it. And I think we're doing good around here. And I really appreciate this community. So thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing. I really do like doing this every day with you guys. It is nice to have people who love stocks as much as I do and love to just look at stuff and see these cool looks. And you guys bring up some great stuff. Like we even looked at Walmart the other day, and that was very, very cool because it looks like some downside move can happen. And then what do you see next? Well, the port strike happens. So it's very, very cool. I just hope you guys have a fantastic night. I hope you have all the luck in the world with your trades going on in tomorrow. Make sure to keep trading like water. Make sure to keep managing that risk. If you want to learn, those links are down in the description. But for now, I just hope you have a good night. All right, peace.